Part 1. Before March 15, 1939. Did not Sibylla prophesy that much misery was to come to Bohemia, that there would be wars, famines, and plagues, but that the worst time would come when the given word or promise would not be held sacred, that then the Bohemian land should be carried over the earth upon the hoofs of horses? Božena Němcová, The Grandmother, A Story of Country Life in Bohemia, 1852. Chapter 1. An Unwelcome Guest. On a hill in Prague there is a castle that has stood for 1,000 years. From its windows one can see a forest of gilded cupolas and Baroque towers, slate roofs, and sacred spires. Visible, too, are the stone bridges spanning the broad and winding Vltava River, as its waters flow northward at a leisurely pace. Through the centuries, the beauty of Prague has been enriched by the labor of artisans from a plethora of nationalities and creeds. It's a Czech city with a variety of accents, at its best in spring when the fragrant blossoms of the lindens burst forth, the forsythia turns gold, and the skies seem an impossible blue. The people, known for their diligence, resilience, and pragmatism, look forward each winter to when the days lengthen, the breezes soften, the trees regain their covering, and the river banks issue a silent summons to play. On the morning of March 15, 1939, that promise of spring had never seemed so distant. Snow lay thick on the castle grounds, winds blew fiercely from the northeast, the heavens were a leaden gray. At the U.S. Embassy, 2 disheveled men cornered a diplomat en route to his office and begged desperately for asylum. They had been Czechoslovak spies in Germany and were known to the Gestapo. The diplomat, a young Foreign Service officer named George Kennan, turned them away. There was nothing he could do. Czechs had awoken that morning to a startling announcement. Today, at 6 o'clock, German troops crossed our borders and are proceeding to Prague by all routes. Stay calm. The light of dawn was still searching for cracks in the clouds when the first convoy of jeeps and trucks roared by, heading toward the castle. The vehicles, plastered with ice, were driven by red-faced soldiers wearing steel helmets and wool coats. Before long, the people of Prague had had their coffee and it was time to go to work. The sidewalks filled with men and women stopping to gape at the alien procession, defiantly waving their fists, crying, or staring in stony silence. In Wenceslas Square, voices were raised in a spontaneous rendering of patriotic songs. On and on the mechanized battalions came, penetrating every neighborhood of the ancient city. At the train station, artillery pieces and tanks were unloaded. By mid-morning, heavy-footed Germans were striding purposefully into government ministries, the town hall, prisons, police offices, and barracks. They seized the airfields, deployed field guns on the snow-covered slopes of Petřín Hill, draped flags and banners across the fronts of buildings, and attached loudspeakers to lampposts and trees. Martial law was declared, and a 9 p.m. curfew announced. In the early evening darkness, a motorcade arrived from the north. Its passengers were ushered through the deserted streets, across the river, and up the curving byways to the castle mount. And so that night, the fabled home of Bohemian kings served as headquarters for the ruler of Germany's Third Reich. Adolf Hitler and his top aides, Hermann Göring and Joachim von Ribbentrop, were in an exultant mood. The Czechs may squeal, the Führer had told his military commanders, but we will have our hands on their throats before they can shout, and anyway, who will come to help them? Ever mindful of a statement attributed to Bismarck that he who controls Bohemia controls Europe, Hitler had long